right, so welcome back. So let's get started actually like doing some stuff. So before we can write apps, we've got to do some setup. Um, and so what we want to do is we want to go ahead and register a new application on console.developers.google.com. So I'll just go ahead and snap mine up here. You can see I've already done it, right? So we're going to create a new project. It's going to be called your username hyphen MQ, which stands for movie quotes, hyphen endpoints. So that should be a pretty easy step. Once you've got that set up, you're going to need some starting code. So you're going to have to visit this URL. Once this page loads for you, you'll find a little download button over here. So I'm just going to put it into a folder here, and then I'm going to extract it. Once you get it extracted, you'll notice it's got the most horrible name ever. So just go ahead and rename that folder. Just name it MQ Endpoints. So you can take off the word starting code, you can take off the word master, and you can take off the hash, right? The reason I want to take off the word starting code is because eventually we're going to implement it, and it's going to be a finished movie quotes endpoints. And it'd be a silly name to have it still be called starting code. And then you're going to do the same thing you've done many times. You're going to create a new project in Eclipse based on the starting code. So just navigate to wherever you put it and find your GIE project folder, the one that's got the app.yaml. And that'll be your starting code. And you can just call it MQ endpoints. Looks great. Add your happen directory wherever you happen to have it set up. For me, that's right there. Make sure it loads in all those files. And then you can say finished. First thing you want to do is you just want to go ahead and run it. So I'm just going to say run as PyDev Google App Engine. And you want to see kind of what code is actually given for you here. Actually, what I should have done before I even ran it once is I should have changed the app.yaml. Whenever you change the app.yaml, it replaces all your data. So this should just be your username, which is FisherDS. So now I'll just go ahead and run it again. And if you want to be like really hardcore about it, one trick you can do is you can do that whole like setting your local storage path. I don't know if you want to bother for this one. I'll go ahead and do it. Their run script looks like I accidentally made two of them. I'm just going to blow one of them away. So the movie quotes endpoints go into the arguments area. And what you can do is you can put on a storage path. And then you can say equal sign, or you can just leave a space. And what you can do is you can just drag in that storage path if it works for you. That storage path trick, that's optional. Remember, that's just if you come back the next day, it's gonna like forget all your data. Don't care if you do that or not. All right, let's go see what we've got. So we open this guy up, localhost 8080. Go ahead and load this. I can see that I've got a movie quotes app. It appears to be functional. So I'll just say hello and then my movie, add quote. And so it actually is functional. The only thing you'll notice is that it's doing the full page reloads. So this was loaded via forms plus Jinja. So the only way you can tell is if you watch like right up here when I hit add quote, you can see it actually did a full page refresh. Gotta tell you, it wasn't that bad, right? But we're wanting to learn about setting up with endpoints. So what we're going to do is we're going to load in a bunch of data. I'm going to say / import data. Interestingly enough, you'll notice that Chrome cheats. It does some pre-fetching. So I haven't gone to that URL yet. But if I were to go look at my logs, there's a good chance that the loading of quotes task has already happened. And sure enough, you see it right there. So it's loaded 123 and it skipped 4. I just think that's kind of funny that I haven't actually been to the page at all yet. In fact, I'll never even go to the page. But you can see that that page had a lot of side effects, and those side effects already happened. I'm sure there are little ways that you can fix that. I'm not worried about it. I think it's a feature, not a bug. All right, if I say edit, I can edit things. So I'm king of the world, update that quote. You can also, so it's got more exclamation points now. You can also delete things. I don't care, I'll delete one of these ones I don't like. So you can do to dandy, and it's gone. You'll notice that whenever we reloaded the page, we were never in editing mode, so the editing mode went away. I don't really care what that does. I'm just pointing out that it's going to be different later. Cool, so this is the starting code that we've got. So if we go glance at it, it's actually not exciting in any way, shape, or form. So it has a template, just like we've used before. So this is exactly like you made movie quotes. The only thing that's weird about it at all is in the CSS area, I am using a boot swatch theme. I'm using the paper theme, so that's really not that exciting. So go ahead and make sure that yours works, and go ahead and run import data on it. And now you'll kind of have the starting code for this thing. Let's go ahead and do a little bit more setup before we finish this video. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the things that we need to use endpoints. So we're going to be using in this video Endpoints 1.0. There is an Endpoints 2.0 in beta, which there's some information down here about that. We're just going to use 1.0 because it's not in beta. The 2.0 is actually the same code, it's just different under the hood. And I just want to show you this thing, so I'm not worried about the 1.0 versus 2.0 really at all. So one thing you need to do is you're going to need to add an endpoints handler. And so this is, if anybody comes to this URL and it's kind of this weird underscore AH, that means it's like under the hood type of thing, right? SPI, not worried about the details. I just know that I need that handler. So that's going to have to be in my app.yaml. And it can be anywhere you want as long as it's before the catch-all, right? So it doesn't really matter where it's at as long as it's before that. So I'm just going to put it directly above. Doesn't matter. Next thing I want to do, I think down here I put it in a different spot, but it just doesn't matter. Next thing I want to do is I want to say, hey, I'm going to use the Endpoints 1.0 library. With Endpoints 2.0, you have to load it via libs with that pip install. 1.0, you just need to add it to your app.yaml, and I kind of like that. That's easier. The next thing that we're going to choose to do is we're going to choose to also use a third-party library. This third-party library that we're going to use, it's called Endpoints ProtoDatastore. It is a third-party library because officially it's not by Google. It turns out that the people that wrote it were the same people that made App Engine, which I think is just kind of funny, right? And if you read it, it's Danny Hermes and some other people. They were DevRel people at Google at the time whenever Endpoints first came out. I think they've actually left Google at this point, but they're still maintaining the library. But I think it's funny. It's like, please visit our documentation. And, our documentation actually goes to a Google page, right? So they're definitely people that are in cahoots. So we're going to use Endpoints ProtoDatastore. So what is it? Why am I choosing to use it? What it is, just kind of at a high level, whenever you use endpoints, you have JSON messages, right? So JSON messages get sent to the server, they come back from the server. You've also got data store models, right? So you've got data store models and they're stored in the data store. They're separate by default. But it turns out that your messages are going to have so this is movie quotes, they're going to have a movie and a quote, and they're going to need to get back a movie, a quote, and an entity key. And your data store is going to have a movie and a quote, and it's going to have a movie and a quote and an entity key, and they're almost identical, right? Endpoints ProtoDatastore lets you type the code once. So it lets you use your data model as your JSON message. And it just makes less code you have to type, and I personally like it. A couple ways you can install it. There's the pip install approach that you could do. I had a bug with that once, and so to be honest, I'm just kind of doing it the old way in this video. I recommend that you do it the same way that I'm about to show you here. And the old way to do it, which is just really simple, is you just go to their repo, which I think I already had that tab open, and you find their clone or download button on here. So you download this zip file, and you can put it wherever you'd like. And what we're going to do is we're going to extract this and steal one folder out of it. And this folder that we're going to steal is the source code folder. So that's the Endpoints ProtoDatastore folder. You can see they've got some docs, some examples. We don't care about those. We really just want to copy this folder, Endpoints ProtoDatastore, and we just want to put it into our GAE project. So we're just going to paste it right there. Could have also done that from within Eclipse. Doesn't really matter. As long as I hit refresh in here, that'll be the same thing. You'll notice that the icon shows up differently, and it shows up as a Python package. And that's really just due to the presence of this file called __knit__.py. If this file exists in a folder, then it's a package, right? And you can put some things in there. So the cool thing is that's actually all we need to like set up to where we can now use endpoints. The final thing we'll do in this video is we'll just go ahead and convert our model. So before it was an NDB model, now it's going to be an endpoints model. Endpoints model will of course say, hey, I don't know what you're talking about, so you'll have to Control-Shift-O, and hopefully it'll import just fine, but it should come from the Endpoints ProtoDatastore .ndb.model, and that's the endpoints model. What that's going to let us do is that's going to let us use our data store model as our JSON message model. Minor additional detail. This will be quick. By default, it will only include in the message things that are properties, so it'll include quote, movie, and last touch date time. We also want the entity key to be passed up and back. So what we have to do is we have to define a custom message field schema. So find this line from the doc, and you can paste it anywhere into this class. I'm just going to go ahead and put mine at the bottom here. So this message field schema, it says, keep movie and quote and last touch date time, but include also the entity key. It actually turns out the last touch date time we're not going to use in the client, but I decided to pass it down anyway. Entity key is the one we really care about. You'll notice that we typed the word entity key. This is a built-in thing with the Endpoints ProtoDatastore. You could have typed ID if you just wanted the ID, but I prefer to use the entity key. All right, so that's all of our setup for this time. Next time we're going to come back and we're going to start tackling the API.py file. See you then.